What if I told you that the biggest threat to your well-being after 70 isn't disease, money, or even time, but the quiet habits you stopped questioning years ago? The ones that feel harmless, even familiar, yet slowly steal your strength, your joy, and your independence without making a sound. This isn't just about aging. It's about the silent decisions that shape everything that comes next. Because the truth is, most people don't die of old age. They die of the consequences of staying comfortable, but not you. Not if you know what to avoid and what to reclaim starting today. 1. Isolating yourself from others. Why it's dangerous. Social withdrawal increases risk of heart disease, depression, cognitive decline, and even early death comparable to smoking or obesity. Why it happens. Loss of friends, reduced mobility, fear of burdening others, or grief. What to do instead. Reconnect, call friends weekly, join small groups, volunteer, or simply chat with neighbors. Staying connected keeps you emotionally and physically alive. What if everything you thought was harmless after 70 was quietly working against you? What if the things that once defined your independence, your strength, your self-reliance are now slowly and silently chipping away at your health, your happiness, and your future? Growing older is often painted as a time of peace and freedom, retirement, reflection, and maybe a few good books by the fire. But the truth, the honest truth, is that these golden years come with their own hidden traps. Subtle behaviors that creep in, cloaked in routine, wrapped in pride, masked by habit, and before you even realize it, they've stolen the spark from your days and the strength from your steps. So in this video, we're doing something different. We're not sugarcoating the struggles, and we're not here to lecture either. This is a wake-up call, a compassionate, candid, and critical look at 5 habits that you must stop doing after 70 if you want to live not just longer, but better. And this isn't about fear, it's about power. About reclaiming your agency in a world that too often treats aging like a decline instead of a transformation. This is for the ones who still want to write their story clearly, boldly, with intention. So buckle in. Because once we reveal the first mistake, you might just see your own life reflected in the mirror we're holding up. And that clarity can change everything. The first thing you should never do after 70 is something so deceptively simple that most people don't even recognize it as a danger. It's isolation. Not the kind of solitude that nourishes the soul, but the creeping silence that replaces community with empty space, that replaces laughter with quiet resignation. You start to turn down invitations, tell friends you're fine on your own, avoid new conversations because they feel exhausting. And you might tell yourself it's just age, just preference, just protecting your peace. But in reality, it's a slow fade. A slow withdrawal from the world that leaves you lonelier than you care to admit. Humans are hardwired for connection. It's not optional. Study after study proves it. Chronic loneliness is as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Let that sink in. It increases the risk of heart disease, depression, dementia, and even early death. And yet, millions of older adults dismiss that risk with a shrug. But let's be real, part of that comes from grief. When your friends pass away, your children get busy, your neighborhood changes, or your health starts limiting your mobility, it's tempting to pull back. It feels safer than risking rejection. It feels simpler than explaining your sadness. But simple isn't always safe. Take the story of Harold. At 76, he was once the loudest voice in his church choir, the first to show up to potlucks, the last to leave. But after his wife died, he stopped going. He said it was just for a while. But weeks turned into months, and months turned into silence. He told himself he was grieving in peace, but what he was really doing was disappearing. One day, he realized nobody had called in weeks. Not because they didn't care, but because they assumed he didn't want to be reached. That realization hit him harder than he expected, and that moment became his turning point. He picked up the phone and called his old neighbor, just to say, "Hi, that call led to coffee. That coffee led to brunch with friends." And Harold slowly returned to the land of the living, not because the pain was gone, but because connection helped him carry it. And if you're watching this and feeling a lump in your throat because it sounds too familiar, don't brush it off. Ask yourself, when was the last time I reached out first? Not because someone needed help, but because I missed the sound of their voice. Loneliness doesn't look like an empty calendar. It looks like living without being truly seen. The solution? It's not grand. It's not moving across the country or joining every club in town. It's small, intentional, manageable. Call a friend every week. Join a weekly game group. Volunteer once a month. Smile at your neighbor. Ask a stranger about their dog. It's not about being the life of the party. It's about reminding yourself you're still part of the world. Still needed. Still loved. Still here. And that truth is worth fighting for. Because at 70 and beyond, your presence is still powerful. Don't let the silence convince you otherwise. 2. Ignoring preventive health checkups. Why it's dangerous. Many serious conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or cancer start silently and get worse without early detection. Why it happens, feeling fine, fear of bad news, or health care. Fatigue. What to do instead. Treat checkups like car maintenance. Catch small issues before they become unmanageable. A simple blood pressure test or screening can save your life. The second mistake that quietly steals years from your life after 70 is the one most people only notice when it's too late. Skipping preventive health checkups. It sounds boring, right? Just another appointment, another waiting room, another chance for bad news. And if you feel fine, if you're still walking, still eating well, still doing your daily crossword, why bother? But that thinking is exactly what turns small problems into lifelong regrets. Because the most dangerous health conditions after 70 don't shout, they whisper. High blood pressure? Silent. Type 2 diabetes? Often unnoticed. Cognitive decline? Easy to write off as forgetfulness. Cancers? Sometimes invisible until they're too far along. And when symptoms finally demand your attention, the damage has already taken root. Let me be blunt, your body at 70 isn't just older, it's different. It responds differently to stress, to diet, to medications, even to rest. So you don't need reactive care, you need predictive care, proactive care. You need to treat your body the way a pilot treats an airplane before takeoff. Full system check, every time. Preventive screenings aren't about paranoia. They're about power. They give you the edge: early intervention, early adjustments, early wins. Remember Judy? A 74-year-old widow with a garden that would put Instagram to shame. She walked every day, ate mostly vegetables, felt great. But at a local community health fair, someone offered to check her blood pressure. She almost declined after all. She'd always had good numbers. But she said yes. The result? Dangerously high. She wasn't dizzy, wasn't weak. But inside, her heart was working overtime. That one checkup led to medication, a diet tweak, and a complete turnaround. Today, Judy still walks the block every morning, only now, she does it knowing she's not a walking time bomb. You don't need to spend your retirement in clinics. A few simple tests a year, blood work, blood pressure, cancer screenings, hearing and vision assessments, can keep you 10 steps ahead of catastrophe. Think of it like owning a classic car. You don't wait for the engine to catch fire before checking the oil. You value that machine, so you maintain it. And if you've lived 7 decades, that body of yours is a masterpiece. Treat it accordingly. So why do so many people skip checkups? Honestly, fear. Fear of being told something's wrong. Fear of feeling old. Fear of being reminded of mortality. But here's the truth no one tells you. Facing those fears early gives you more time to live fully, not less. Ignoring them doesn't make you younger. It just robs you of time you didn't know you were losing. And if the medical system has failed you before, or made you feel rushed, unseen, or overwhelmed, don't let that be the end of the story. There are compassionate doctors, empathetic nurses, kind practitioners who see the whole you, not just your age. Find one. Fight for your care. Because no one else will care more about your well-being than you, unless you invite them in. And you do that by showing up. Don't wait for your body to scream. Listen while it whispers. That's where real power lives, in awareness. Not anxiety, not avoidance, but informed awareness. And you deserve that clarity. 3. Bottling up emotions. Why it's dangerous. Repressed emotions lead to chronic stress, high blood pressure, weakened immunity, and strained relationships. Why it happens. Generational beliefs equate emotional restraint with strength. Fear of being vulnerable. What to do instead? Talk to someone you trust, friend, counselor, pastor, or even journal. Expressing emotion is strength that releases inner pressure and restores emotional balance. The third mistake, often the quietest and most corrosive of them, all is bottling up your emotions. At 70 and beyond, many people have learned to survive, to endure, to swallow grief and smile through pain. They come from a generation where emotions were kept under lock and key, where crying was private, where sadness was something you got over, not something you explored. And that stoicism, it was once necessary. It helped people weather storms, raise families, make sacrifices. But now, that same emotional armor may be weighing you down. Because here's the truth. Unspoken pain doesn't disappear, it burrows. It embeds itself in your body, your nervous system, your immune response. Suppressed sadness doesn't leave quietly. It manifests as fatigue, high blood pressure, chronic inflammation, insomnia. It steals your energy, clouds your mind, and hardens your heart. And worst of all, it isolates you from others, because if you can't be honest about how you're doing, how can anyone reach you? Let me tell you about Ron, a 78-year-old Vietnam veteran who looked tough as nails on the outside. He mowed his own lawn, never missed a Sunday paper, and never, ever cried. For decades, he shrugged off his nightmares, his moments of rage, the hollow ache of loss. He told himself it was just part of being a man, just part of moving forward. Then one day, his neighbor invited him to a local veterans circle. Ron didn't want to go, but something in his gut told him to try. That night, he sat in the circle of men his age. And when he truly spoke about what haunted him, something shifted. He said it felt like finally breathing after holding his breath for years. And from that moment on, his life changed. The nightmares didn't disappear, but they lost their grip. The anger softened. The isolation cracked. He began to feel again, not just pain but joy. When we bottle up emotions, we think we're controlling them, but really, they're controlling us. Anger, grief, regret, guilt, these are normal, human. They don't make you weak. They make you real. And being real is what allows connection, healing, even love to come back in. You don't have to bare your soul on a therapist's couch. You can talk to a friend, a pastor, a journal. You can write a letter to someone you lost. You can tell a story you've never told. You can cry in the shower, or during a walk, or while holding a photograph. The point isn't how you release, it's that you do, because unspoken grief calcifies. And at this stage of life, it's not about carrying more. It's about setting things down, making space, and reclaiming your emotional freedom. Vulnerability, especially in older age, is a form of courage. To say, that still hurts. To admit, I wish I had said this. To whisper, I'm still healing. That's strength. That's maturity. That's transformation. And it gives others permission to open up too. Because your honesty is a lighthouse. And you never know who it might help find their way back to shore. So if you've been quietly pretending that you're over it, that the divorce, or the miscarriage, or the war, or the sibling rivalry, or the missed opportunity didn't really leave a mark, ask yourself, what if naming it is what finally sets you free? Emotions don't expire, they evolve, but only if you let them out into the light. 4. Neglecting strength and balance. Why it's dangerous. Age-related muscle loss, sarcopenia, and poor balance. Increased risk of falls, the leading cause of injury in seniors. Why it happens. Belief that physical decline is inevitable, or that it's too late to start exercising. What to do instead. Engage in simple strength and balance routines, like standing on one foot or using resistance bands. It improves energy, sleep, posture, confidence, and independence. The fourth mistake that creeps in slowly, but can change everything in an instant, is neglecting your strength and balance. Now you might think, I'm not an athlete anymore. I'm just trying to live comfortably. But here's the hard truth. After 70, your physical ability isn't just about fitness, it's about freedom. It's about whether you can keep living on your own terms or whether you slowly hand over your independence to chance. The enemy here isn't aging. It's inactivity. Sarcopenia, a word most people don't hear until it's already affecting them, is the gradual loss of muscle mass with age. But it's not inevitable. It's not untreatable. And it's definitely not harmless. Weaker legs mean less stability. Poor posture means chronic pain. Diminished balance means higher risk of falls. And falls, they're not just slips. They're life-altering. A single fall can lead to a broken hip, a 6-month recovery, and sometimes, sadly, a permanent move into assisted living. All because your body wasn't prepared. The tragedy isn't just the fall, it's that so many are avoidable. You don't need a gym. You don't need to deadlift 200 pounds. You just need movement, gentle, consistent, purposeful. Let's talk about Marlene. She's 82, lives alone, and used to be sharp and witty, but she began feeling off balance just walking from her kitchen to her couch. She dismissed it, thought maybe it was just a bad day. Then came the trip over the hallway rug. A fractured wrist. 3 weeks of pain, dependency, and frustration. That injury scared her more than anything else in the last decade. But it also became her pivot point. With a little encouragement from her daughter, she joined a senior fitness class at the community center. It wasn't fancy. A few chairs, a rubber band, 10 other people moving slowly to soft music. But within 2 months, Marlene said she felt taller. She stood up from the couch without using her arms. She could walk around the block without holding onto fences. And perhaps most importantly, she felt safe in her own body again. That feeling, that's priceless. And it's available to you too. Balance isn't luck, it's training. Strength isn't youth. It's maintenance, and none of it is out of reach. You can start by doing heel-to-toe walks along your kitchen counter. You can practice standing on one foot while brushing your teeth. You can do gentle chair squats, or use resistance bands for your arms and legs. These aren't workouts, they're life preservation rituals. The real obstacle isn't your age. It's the belief that you're too old to start. That's the myth that keeps people stuck. Because in reality, people who begin exercising in their 70s, 80s, even 90s often experience dramatic gains in strength, confidence, sleep quality, even cognitive clarity. Your body is adaptable, even now, especially now. Don't wait for a fall to wake you up. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. Test yourself right now. Can you balance on one foot for 10 seconds? Can you stand from a chair without using your arms? If not, this isn't failure. It's a signal, a gentle nudge to begin. Because every day you neglect your strength and balance is one day closer to needing help. And every day you engage with your body is a declaration. I'm still here. I'm still capable. I'm still moving forward. And that mindset is more powerful than any medicine. 5. Pretending you're fine when you're not. Why it's dangerous. Ignoring symptoms like chest pain, confusion, or memory issues delays diagnosis and treatment of serious conditions. Why it happens. Pride, fear, or not wanting to burden others. What to do instead. Speak up early. Listen to your body as you would a loved one. Early intervention often prevents greater health crises. ChatGPT Genoi. The fifth and perhaps most dangerous mistake people make after 70 is pretending they're fine when they're not. This one hides behind smiles, shrugs, and phrases like, "It's nothing," or "I'm just tired," or the most dangerous of all, "I'll be okay." But let's be honest, what does fine even mean? Because if it means ignoring chest discomfort that comes and goes, dismissing a sudden fogginess in your thinking, brushing off a new pain that wasn't there last month, then fine becomes a mask. And behind that mask, real warning signs are begging for attention. The older we get, the quieter the symptoms become. A heart condition might feel like a little fatigue. Early dementia might just seem like forgetting names more often. Blood sugar spikes might disguise themselves as irritability or dizziness. And when you ignore these whispers, they often grow into shouts. Shouts that arrive in emergency rooms, or after it's too late to change the outcome. But why do so many seniors pretend? The answer is layered. For some, it's pride, the identity of being strong, capable, unshakable. For others, it's fear of bad news, of hospitals, of losing control. And for many, it's a deep reluctance to burden their children or partners. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Silence isn't strength. It's risk. Real strength is saying, something feels off, and I want to check it out. Real wisdom is recognizing that ignoring your body doesn't protect your independence. It threatens it. Take George, 79, a proud father of 4, former engineer, the kind of guy who fixed his own plumbing well into his 70s. He'd been feeling tightness in his chest for weeks but waved it off as heartburn. Didn't want to alarm his daughter. Didn't want to sit in a waiting room for hours. But one night during dinner, his daughter noticed he looked pale. She insisted he get checked. They went to the hospital that night, and doctors found serious heart strain. He needed intervention, and fast. The next morning, George said something that stuck with me. If I'd kept pretending, I might not be here today. And that's the thing. The cost of pretending isn't just discomfort, it's time. Time with your grandchildren. Time walking your favorite trail. Time laughing, dancing, choosing what your final chapters look like. So how do you shift this habit? First, reframe what it means to speak up. It's not weakness. It's leadership. You're taking charge of your story. Second, listen to your body like you'd listen to someone you love. If your daughter said she felt lightheaded every day, you'd tell her to go to the doctor, wouldn't you? Why not offer yourself the same care? Third, create a communication habit. Once a week, check in with someone you trust. Not just to chat, but to really ask yourself, is there anything I've been ignoring? And be honest in the answer. Because every habit we've discussed in this video, whether it's staying socially engaged, staying emotionally open, staying strong, staying proactive, they all hinge on one thing: your willingness to be honest about how you're really doing. And that honesty might be the single most life-giving habit of all. So if you've been pushing through pain, downplaying your forgetfulness, or hiding your fear, please hear this. You're not a burden, you're not weak, you're human. And your health is worth speaking up for. So now that we've walked through all 5 of these quiet but powerful traps: social isolation, skipping preventive care, bottling up emotions, neglecting physical strength and balance, and pretending you're fine when you're not, the question becomes, what do you do with this knowledge? Because awareness without action is just a temporary comfort. But awareness followed by a shift, even a small one, can change the entire trajectory of your life. Growing older doesn't mean fading. It means evolving. And that evolution isn't about becoming someone new. It's about finally having the time and wisdom to become who you were always meant to be, without apology, without pretense, without fear. Aging isn't about surrendering to limitations. It's about understanding what truly matters: energy, relationships, joy, peace, purpose. These are the currencies of a meaningful life, especially in your 70s and beyond. And the truth is, none of the 5 mistakes we talked about are rooted in failure. They're rooted in habit, in survival strategies that once served us, but now must be released to make room for what's next. If you've been isolating, you can choose connection today. If you've skipped health checkups, you can make a single appointment this week. If you've been swallowing emotions, you can share one truth with someone you trust. If you've let your body weaken, you can take a 10-minute walk. And if you've been pretending you're fine, you can start being honest, one breath at a time. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to begin. Because here's the lesson: your best years aren't behind you. They're wherever you choose to become present, to live awake, to stop coasting and start choosing. The biggest danger of old age isn't physical decline, it's emotional disengagement. It's the belief that change is no longer possible. But that belief is a lie. The truth? You are still the author of your story. You are still capable of growth, of love, of learning. And the more you act on that truth, the more vibrant your life becomes, regardless of the number on your birthday cake. So pick one of the 5 habits we discussed. Just one, and ask yourself, How does this show up in my life? Then take one small action. Call someone. Make an appointment. Write down how you feel. Try a balance exercise. Tell someone you need help. One action can start a ripple, and that ripple, it becomes a wave. A wave of health, hope, and renewal. You're not done yet. Not even close. There are still sunrises to watch, laughs to be shared, wisdom to be passed down, and yes, even new adventures to be lived. Your story isn't closing, it's deepening, so let it. Turn the page and write it well.